All right, welcome everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. And I want to welcome everyone to our Careers in Information Management virtual panel discussion. And we're really excited to have you here, and we'll just get started. We'll have folks trickle in throughout. My name is Jameson Dixon, and I am one of the assistant directors in the Career Center. I work specifically on our employer engagement team, and my job here at DePaul is I develop relationships with employers for the purpose of recruiting DePaul students for full-time jobs and internships. I work specifically with organizations in media arts communication and technology and design. And so I'm very excited to be leading today's discussion about information management and overall IT roles and functions. We have a great panel here today. And I'm going to be joined by Lauren Bobrin, who is our career advisor for technology and design. I'll let Lauren do a short intro.
Hey everyone, I am Lauren Bobrin. I am the career advisor here at DePaul. Thank you, Jameson, for that intro. I work on the student-facing side of things. Some of you may know me, some of you maybe don't. But we are very pleased to announce this actually for the quarter, this final tech talk of our quarter on careers and information management. So thank you everyone for coming. As a quick note, just if you're a guest, if you can please keep your mics on mute throughout. You can have your video on or off, whichever you prefer. We will be taking questions throughout, so please feel free. If you do have a question, you can type that right in the chat, and we will try to get to every question if we can, as long as time allows. And just as a quick note for the Career Center, we know this is a time of anxiety and uncertainty for a lot of folks. Just so you are aware, if you're not already, the Career Center is still offering one-on-one advising appointments with students. We are offering those via either Zoom or phone appointments. You can schedule those through Handshake. You can also reach out to our Career Center by phone or email to schedule those appointments. And we'll be putting a link to the chat directly to the Handshake page where you can do that. If you do have any questions about that, feel free to reach out to any of us after our meeting as well. We'd also like to introduce Maz bin Aftab. Maz is our career ambassador for our tech and design career community. Maz, if you want to say hello.
Hi, guys.
Maz also does a lot of advising with students as well as some other duties in the Career Center. Jameson, I will throw it back to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Lauren and Maz. Again, Maz and Lauren are part of our career education team, and they can assist you with resume reviews, cover letters, really any of these items here. Part of our technology and design career community, Lauren, myself, and Maz, they primarily, again, focus resumes, cover letters, internship and job search, practice interviews. I'm much more focused on industry trends and employer outreach. And so again, we're excited to have you all here today. And so we're gonna jump right into why you're here. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I want to, again, just welcome you all here and welcome to our panelists. We're really excited to have an all-star lineup today. And I'm just gonna really allow each of our panelists to do a short introduction just about who you are, your company, and just if you wanna give us a fun fact or if you wanna just kinda give us something about short and sweet about your experience, but I'll pass it over to our panelists. And I'll actually, to make it easier, from my screen, I see Ryan, Eric, and then I see Jeff. So we'll kind of just, if you want to just go ahead and jump in and do a short intro, we'll get started.
Sure. Sounds good. Thanks, Jameson. My name's Ryan. I'm the Assistant Operations Manager at Stryker Networks. We're a small to medium-sized MSP for businesses in the Chicagoland area and also around the country. So we're very, very excited. I have Eric here with me. I'll let him go next. We're very, very excited to be here and speak with you guys about the tech industry and what we have to offer. Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, my name's Eric Less. I'm Operations Manager for Stryker Networks. I help lead a team of 6 engineers. Like Ryan had mentioned, we do small to mid-sized businesses throughout the U.S. We've continued to expand, but our goal is to act as the eyes and ears for small to mid-sized networks and businesses to help manage and maintain their systems.
Awesome. Thanks, Eric. Thank you. We're really, I'll tell you, Ryan actually, I talked to Ryan this morning and Ryan agreed to participate today. So we're really excited to have Ryan and Eric, actually Ryan, Eric, and Andre all agreed to participate today. So thank you both for joining us. I'll let Jeff, according to my screen, I see Jeff next. So Jeff, I'll let you go with a short intro.
Sure. I'd also like to thank those other panelists and said they took me out of the hot seat. It was going to just be me today. So thanks everybody for helping take some of the pressure off me. But anyway, my name is Jeff Glidden. I'm an IT director at the Walgreens pharmacy company. Essentially what I do day to day is I lead a team, and there's about 5 or 6 different types of directors. We're rebuilding the pharmacy software that essentially operates the pharmacy, allows you to come in, get a prescription, and leave, and everything that comes with that. There's a lot of details about how you essentially fill a prescription, and so there's an aging system about 25 years old that has taken Walgreens to where they are today, and in order to take them into the future, they need to rebuild it from the ground up. So that's what the team that I'm working with is charged with, and fairly large 900 plus person, almost like company within a company. It's kind of being operated as a startup, even though it's 900 people, so not so much of a startup, but it's definitely operates separately than what you see to day-to-day operations within Walgreens and then the store, since that's kind of what we call in like the legacy team or the retail team, where we're kind of a separate team that was spun up, just a program to just rebuild the entire pharmacy software and architecture and even hardware, from scanning to printing, whatever, from the ground up to try and take Walgreens into the 21st century. So that's essentially what I do day to day.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. We appreciate you joining us. And Jeff actually serves on our School of Computing Leadership Council, and we're excited to have Jeff join us today. And our next panelist is Andre. So I will go ahead and allow you to do an introduction.
Hi. Hello, everybody. My name is Andrei Platov. I work at Bounteous. We provide digital solutions for various companies. Have a few offices in the States, have one in Canada. We have a few employees in Germany. Now, I'm a part of the data systems engineering team here. What we do is we connect the data between e-commerce platforms like Shopify and Magento, where you sell stuff, and between the company's internal databases, like systems like SAP, ERPs, those type of things. So a lot of my work is actually not only writing code, but actually understanding the data automation part of moving that and trying to communicate that to all of the different parties engaged. A fun fact about me is that my last place where I worked, it was actually a healthcare related product. The team that I was on was actually infection prevention. So I've learned quite a bit about infections right there.
Yeah.
It's really funny getting into this COVID situation lately. Yeah, interesting.
That's very, very interesting. And thank you, Andre, for participating. We really, again, thank all of our panelists for participating today. I want to make sure we have enough time for questions. So students, if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in that chat, and we can, we'll ask questions through students as they come through the chat. But I'm going to just kind of jump right into our conversation, and I'm really interested, and I'll kind of keep on that same theme. Andre, you talked about your previous experience and where you worked, and that kind of leads us to really the COVID crisis that's currently going on. And so I'm just really interested, just in all of your experiences, what has changed due to the current pandemic? What has changed in your daily work that you do, whether that be transitioning from in an office to working from home, whether that be, I know we talked a little bit earlier, Ryan, about working from home for the first time. So tell us a little bit about what has changed in your operations and your individual day-to-day functions.
All right, so basically, company operations-wise, not much has changed, as we all already operate, and a lot of us were doing the remote work. I think it was really hard, for me personally, for the first couple of weeks, we're adjusting to not having an option to actually freedom to stay versus go into the office. So it was mental readjustment for the first couple of weeks. So other than that, I think what our company did, we changed some of the communication, some of the old hands that we'll be doing quarterly, all of those. We changed it to just a new meeting type. So we're doing more frequent communication. So I find that really helpful and keeping everybody engaged in transparent communication. I really like that. Other than that, I think it's I don't want to say it's like a business as usual. We're really now more concerned about what will be happening in the industry economy. But for now, though, we haven't seen too many drastic changes. I guess we're pretty lucky to be in that position. I think you're muted. Yeah. Jameson, yeah.
How embarrassing. Lauren, you did that last time. Now it's my turn. Feel free, any of the other panelists, to jump in. It's a great, it's good to know that some organizations are kind of moving forward with business as usual. Any of the other panelists, anybody want to jump in? How has things changed in your day-to-day due to COVID?
For our engineers, all the engineers that we have are working from home. It didn't really impact a lot because even though we worked in the office day to day, we're pretty mobile. So all the engineers had to do is bring their phone home, and they were as if they're in the office, or they had soft phones, so they didn't need to bring anything with them. If anything, from our side of the business, our business has picked up quite a bit just because of the amount of users that are working remotely, and not all the customers were actually prepared for something like this. Like, for instance, I think most people now will probably be going to laptops, because what they ran into, these people still need to do their work, but they had a desktop and they couldn't work from home. So there was some, quick work to help them out, but also from our standpoint, we've been fortunate, we are busy, our phones are constantly ringing, but we've also been trying to do what's best for the customer to help them out during this time. The owner of our company, he's reached out to say, hey, what can we do, to help, lessen some of your stress, especially during this time. So, like, from our standpoint, it wasn't as huge of an impact. If anything, our volume picked up even more than what it was.
Yeah, to expand upon that just real quick, like Eric mentioned, we moved relatively easily to a complete work from home model in terms of our internal staff. And then I would say we mobilized pretty quickly in getting all of our clients to that same model, in terms of people, whether they needed to bring their full setup home, whether it was a desktop or a laptop, like Eric had mentioned. We like to think that we have all of our customers prepared for any type of scenario, but obviously I don't think anyone was prepared for this. So it's been very interesting for us, but I think we found a lot of success in getting everyone up to speed working remotely, implementing new software and new hardware procedures and just implementations in general to make that as smooth as possible for our customers.
Yeah, from my perspective, there was, I would say in North America and Canada, a very smooth, easy transition. It was always the software, or the kind of IT organization was already fairly enabled for people to work from home, as just the Walgreens policy that offers 2 days a week where team members can work from home remotely. So everyone was already fairly enabled. But where we saw challenges were some of the other countries. For instance, India, we had some challenges there getting resources, especially because we are in the middle of an aggressive ramp up of resources in India, and the COVID really put a hamper on the ramp plans to bring in new people, especially because it's one thing to bring them into the office, it's another thing to ship them laptops, or provide them infrastructure that they can get online with and have a stable internet connection for voice and data. We found a lot of challenges. We're still challenged there. It's going slower than expected, which has put some of our program plans at risk. And but everybody obviously understands that this was something that was unexpected, but we've been certainly challenged there from just getting people online and productive from countries like India, where we have a large percentage of the workforce. So that's one area. I would say just day to day domestically, We've seen productivity in general. I would say it's similar, or in some cases gone up, to be honest. Like myself, I have about an hour and a half commute I live in the Chicago Loop area, and I have to go to Deerfield prior to COVID, and it's about an hour 20 each way. And so, not having to do that not only is, a little less stress in my life, but I also think I tend to work a little longer hours because I don't have to get up and leave at 4 to get home by 6 for a class or some type of event in the evening. So I think everyone's getting a lot more. Also, I've noticed boundaries around working hours are getting shifted, and not in a good way, in my opinion. It was 9 to 5, and then it started creeping, 8 to 5, 8 to 6, and now I've got meetings at 7 a.m. because people are like, well, you've got nothing better to do, so why don't you get on a phone call? So anyway, some of those things that you normally wouldn't put up with during pre-COVID era, you're kind of just being forced to put up with this a little bit, longer hours because you have a little less excuses and people know you're home. So anyway, that's my take so far.
That's excellent. Thanks, Jeff. I will say I agree. We talked a little bit earlier about like the boundaries of the nature of remote work, and it kind of leads to kind of my next question. Thinking about boundaries and how things have transitioned to remote work. How have you as individuals, how have you set boundaries in your professional lives? Like Ryan, I know we talked a little bit about how you've transitioned and your organization really kind of had the, jump shift, whereas some organizations, they were already kind of in that, they were already kind of moving towards a remote direction. So just from, tell us a little bit about how you as an industry professional, how do you keep the boundaries from work and professional, especially in this remote work culture?
Yeah, so kind of like we spoke earlier, Jameson, I think that for us, not just myself, but for Stryker Networks in general, we place a very large emphasis on routine. So even though you're working from home, you have to keep the routine relatively the same or find a new routine. Because if you live without a routine, it might be fun for a couple of days or a week, but eventually you fall apart. Humans are definitely creatures of habit. So for myself, it's getting up in the morning, working out, starting work, and then knowing when to put work away for the rest of the evening. Obviously, as an IT professional, in our business model, we have days where we have to work over hours, or we have to schedule something after hours because it just can't happen during business hours. And that's totally okay. But I think there is definitely a hard stop that needs to be put in when working from home, because like Jeff had mentioned, the hours, they shift. People want to keep working until 6, and next thing you know, they want to keep working until 7. So I think finding some kind of routine in the chaos is really the most key thing to staying successful working from home.
That's awesome. Thanks, Ryan. Any other panelists want to add to any ways that you've kind of set some boundaries during this remote work transition?
Yeah, on my end, it's a simple hack, I guess. I just try to dress up, like putting jeans on, like changing from my pajamas, just to kind of also feel like I'm working and not just relaxed. That kind of helps a bit.
Yeah, from my perspective, I haven't, frankly, you're probably the first people that have seen me on video in a long time. So congrats. My coworkers would probably be a little jealous right now, but because it's funny because I think the first few days there was a lot of like, yeah, video. And then after a week is like 99% are like not showing their video. So, and I understand that because, most of us haven't had a haircut in a while. The house is getting a little dirtier, et cetera, et cetera. But, for me, one of the things that helps if you're not going to do video is, even though sometimes it can get very noisy in the city, is I like to try and find times to take walks. And sometimes taking walks while I'm on a call, as long as I can still participate, and the video isn't distracting, which because I have it off, then, why not take that time to get some exercise and go? It's hard to sometimes, the gyms are closed, right? Lakefront's closed. a lot of my outlets for stress relief have been, kind of curtailed or taken away in some sense. And I've had to, I won't lie, I've struggled to try and find things to like supplement, as the skill in my house would tell you. But it's challenging, forcing yourself to find ways to get outside, even taking calls with some fresh air somewhere can really help. And then, also, again, setting boundaries, right? So if you have a routine where you say every day at 6, I'm going to go like take a walk. Well, then as soon as 6 comes, you have to excuse yourself. Where if you just kind of say, well, I'll do it when I'm ready, it's a lot harder to, tell your coworkers, hey, I got to drop, I need to go do something. All right, I need to, or even your family or whatever it is, right? So, I think having some boundaries where you kind of think about what works for me and then set those and stick to them really helps.
That's great. Thanks for that, Jeff. Anyone else want to add to?
Mine's been a little different just from the simple fact that I have 2 relatively young kids, 8 and 6, and we've been e-learning since March. So trying to balance their school with, getting work done. So I block out times early in the morning or, late at night. So it's a little discombobulated, but and every once in a while I go into the office to kind of get that, just a break, a disconnect, kind of free your mind. Going for walks is another one. The kids do what's called a brain break. So every once in a while they'll put on YouTube and everyone's dancing. So just to kind of break the monotony of being at home and kind of keeping your mind sharp and, kind of forget about work for whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, it makes a big difference. I've noticed when I take 10, 15 minutes every here and there, I'm sharper in the day. Like we joke around at work, we tell people to work smarter and not harder. So just because you've put in an 8-hour day and you've only put in 4 hours of work, then, you might as well put in 4 hours of work in a 4-hour day. But, that's kind of how we are. It is different, but, just like Jeff was mentioning, taking a walk or, getting in a routine. And Ryan had mentioned our owner is big on, get dressed, do your normal routine, and stick to it. Getting dressed like you're going into work. It may not seem much, but I didn't think at the time that it meant much, but it really does, because it really gets you focused, realizing you're not at home sitting in your jammies watching TV and doing work, and that way you can really focus on getting stuff done that you really need to get done.
Yeah, I'll probably also add that for me, like one of the little challenges was actually finding a spot. I used to sit at a kitchen counter for quite a few weeks, and then finally organizing that. My spouse helped me come up with a desk and more or less like a dedicated space. That was also a challenge. But it helps definitely, because now this is area for work and everything else is outside of that.
That's excellent. I will say for some of us that have studios, it was a creative challenge. So it took a little bit to get to a place to where there was some structure in terms of, like as you mentioned, Andre, finding a location. We have a question that I want to answer since it's related to COVID. And this question comes from Mike. Mike, would you like to ask your question, or I can pose it? I want to give you the freedom to have your own voice. So if you want to ask the question, feel free, or I can go ahead and ask it to the panelists. Totally.
Sure, I'll use my voice.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mike Austin. My question was, since COVID, do the panelists foresee a surge in technology projects for businesses in order to enable them to perform remote work? Since a lot of businesses were kind of caught unaware and unable to do business without those sort of remote capabilities.
Yeah, I think we have a big feeling that a lot of the stuff's gonna go into the cloud, whether AWS or Azure, because of stuff like that. So whether someone is in the office or not in the office, the way they connect isn't really gonna change. With a lot of people that weren't quite prepared for it, I can see that you're going to see less brick and mortar and more remote users, just from the simple fact that businesses are realizing, well, they can be just as productive. You know, obviously different jobs are a little bit different, but a lot of people can work remotely and still get what they need to do and communicate, because obviously with Zoom and like our organization, we use Slack, we use the video conferencing, you could still do everything you need to do and be productive and have meetings instead of having like all these face-to-face meetings. And also the big thing too, it's going to move to after this is security, because if everything does go to AWS, cybersecurity is going to even be more prevalent than it already is.
To expand upon that too, for Stryker, our business model is a little bit different since we aren't the internal IT team for our clients. We're a strategic partner with our clients. So ultimately everything we do with our customers is, you know, a service or something that they see fit for their business. So it was almost a strange, bittersweet scenario for us in that there were security policies or software implementations or things that we wanted to implement for our customers for years, and they never saw the value in it. Then the day COVID hit, all of a sudden everyone saw the value in being able to work from home and having very tight-knit security, being able to get to your internal, you know, SQL database or whatever it may be securely from home when you're not sitting inside of the network inside of your office. So Eric had mentioned earlier in the call, we've seen an uptick in business. That's exactly why, Mike. We have had all of our customers see a huge push towards security and towards decentralizing and moving towards the cloud.
Thank you.
Excellent question, Mike. And I want to give the panelists a few minutes to talk a little bit about just your path, your IT path. How did you get to where you are today in IT? And if you can just talk a little bit about what was your professional journey to how you got to where you are today, and just talk a little bit about like what were some challenges that you faced as you were a fresh grad out in IT, or maybe you were a career changer. So if you can just give us a little bit about your history in IT, that would be great.
I can start here. For me, like when I was going to university, one of the choices I did make on the last year, I decided not to go for that co-op project, like for a full year. Like my personal thing, I was like, it doesn't seem like the overall process is way too organized. I'm gonna just probably take more hardcore engineering courses. So which is what I did. After that, I've kind of found myself in a situation like, oops, I don't have as much like real world experience because I decided to study. So that for me, it was a challenge to land my first job. After that, after I got my first year in the field, things were like much easier. It was much easier to move to different companies, like go through interviewing process. That first bump was hard for me. So I would probably say, if you have any co-op opportunities, just really focus them, prioritize them, strategize. That's really my 5 cents there. After that, it was quite a bit of moving, but in different companies. Products, most of them were like product-based, meaning you develop a product, you maintain a product, you evolve the product. My last current role is more in kind of agency role, where I have different projects, different clients. So this is kind of where I guess I built up on some of the experience previously, so now I can use those skills to use it, and I really like it. Industry-wise, I have a huge passion for healthcare, and this is like my last few jobs were in the healthcare business. Right now, because I'm in Canada, and as you may know, Canada has like this public, free healthcare to a big extent, and that has like a huge downside to it because there's not a lot of money out there to invest into healthcare companies. So that's how I currently pivoted more into this kind of other kind of field to build a separate type of skill set. And then at some point I want to go back to healthcare, but for now, just growing here.
So I actually went to school in, like I mentioned, I'm from Michigan. I went to school in Michigan at a place called Ferris State University, and I majored in computer information technology. And I found myself in an internship with Stryker Networks through like some mutual friends, and then ended up moving here temporarily to Chicago to intern with them for 2 years, working on and off as just kind of temp employee working from college, doing simple things like, you know, password resets, email resets, but getting my foot in the door, kind of like Andre mentioned, I think that's super important in any industry coming out of college. While in college, I was super involved. I was a member of ACM, a member of AITP. I know Jameson had mentioned to me earlier, you guys have an ACM chapter. So if you're involved with that, I know that that's super helpful in getting you into the industry. And also just making sure I stayed up to date on certifications. I have my A+, I have my Net+, and I have my Security+. I have a bunch of other certifications that are pretty much useless now that I picked up through college, but those are the big 3 ones that I have. Culminate all of that into one, person, and I was able to land a job with Stryker from an internship. And I've been working there for the past 2 years right out of college. So
I actually took a different path. I have a bachelor's degree in marketing. And when I started interviewing many years ago, I'm interviewing, sitting in this interview room like, this is not what I want to do. And I go, so I'd always been into computers and some of the basics, didn't know any of the networking, didn't know much. Actually, the current owner hired me out of college, and he kind of took me under his wing. And a lot of stuff that I learned was his mentoring, doing research, always trying to find the right answer, having someone that will mentor you in the sense not give you the answer, but kind of help you work through the answer. So I worked with him for 2 or 3 different jobs, and I broke off into like a network administrator, system admin. So I had more day-to-day, more help desk. Being able to communicate is huge in our industry, because you guys will probably know the technology side. You'll know the technology side, but when you're talking to the end user or customer, they don't have a clue what you're talking about it. So you want to be able to work with them and make them understand in their terms. And that's been big, at least as I've grown, is being able to relay what I know to either the end user or my staff in a way which they'll understand it, and basically put it in English instead of like all the technology terms, because they're going to look at you with their eyes crossed, like, what are you talking about? But so yeah, I've been able to grow. I've been with Stryker almost 4 years now, after coming back with Mark, who's the owner. It has a lot to do with I grew my career. The one thing always stuck with me is that you need to have integrity. So if you don't have integrity, you don't have anything. We have a big push. If you make a mistake, sorry about that. If you make a mistake, just own up to it, and don't hide it. Don't lie. I mean, yeah, it may sting in the beginning, but at the end of the day, it's about doing the right thing.
So from my perspective, I actually found my love or passion for computers and technology through video games or playing games. Early, maybe in like 8th grade, 9th grade, I stumbled into a Mac lab at my school, and people were playing this tank game, and I was like, oh, what are you guys doing? And sat down and kind of went down the rabbit hole to try and learn how to, this is a very early networked game, nothing like the stuff that you guys have today, the cool technology and toys you guys have today. This was back when we had to try and use a modem to find games on the internet through a tracker, so that you can try and connect through at that time it was mostly dial-up unless you were at a university. And I had to learn, and none of this stuff was well documented or anything. So trying to play this game, connect to people on the internet, and get into chats where we didn't have Messenger, Slack, or any of these things you guys use today. We were using IRC, and there's obviously more crude tools before that. So these are all things that were not user friendly, and I had to really just spend hours and hours and hours trying to figure out. So but in the process of doing that, I kind of learned to think like a computer, because I had to, from troubleshooting so much. And so that kind of informed, at the same time, my family had a small business that was in the home itself, just on a different floor, and it was all Macs. And so I kind of had to just start taking over their network. Somebody had an issue, I knew how to fix it just from playing the games and having to fix my own issues. And from there, it was kind of obvious that that's where I wanted to spend my time in school, especially university. So, but for me, it was not on the science side. So I didn't start in the engineering school. I went on the business side. So I majored in information systems, which was, basically computers, but more of the business and functional side than in the science-y engineering side in the engineering school. And from there, that kind of propelled me into start my career with as a consultant in consulting. So I joined Accenture right out of school. I spent about 8 years there. For me, when I give advice to people just coming out of school, for me, going the consulting route was like, in my opinion, the equivalent of getting an MBA, at least in terms of experience, because I had to learn quickly on the ground, how to do pretty much an end-to-end process of building something. And when in IT, it was really about building software. But I had to play every single different role from the beginning to the end and learn how to do it all myself. And I think that was a hugely critical skill to learn because then I could take that and I knew what good was like across every section and every step of a delivery process, right? And then it really allowed me to know how to manage it later on as I became more experienced and take on more responsibilities. The other thing I'll say is, back up for a second, is one of the things I did during college is, I only had one job, which was my freshman year for a semester. I was a bar back. And I kind of realized that I didn't like doing that, and I didn't want to do that for, years to come for income while I was in school and broke and trying to, buy stuff. And so luckily, I just kind of applied and got a position in the Mac lab, started managing the Macs there. And through that led to, it was a Mac lab in the kinesiology department. The professor that ran the kinesiology department, asked me to take on an internship for a grant that he received to build a website for writing scientific papers. And, he knew that I might not have been the person that knew the most technically, or like he could have gone to the engineering school and found somebody that was a really great programmer and kind of had all this stuff that they had done. But he knew that I was willing to learn it and do it right, and gave me the opportunity. And so I built skills in how to create a database through, open source, MySQL. I had to learn PHP. And then I had to kind of learn how to craft this website based on his vision, which wasn't really documented. But it kind of, again, it just prepared me for having skills, like hard skills, coming out of school that allowed me to even get another internship. Because after I did that, I was able to get an internship at a different company the next year, what was an atmospheric research company, kind of doing web development and managing their web development with their kind of senior web manager. And so, all these things being said, not only was the pay good and really helped out, but I was able to, it was an easy sell for me to tell an employer why they should hire me, is because I could do stuff for them right away. It wasn't like they needed to teach me, and of course that's part of being an employer coming out of school. But, when I look for, I've done a lot of hiring in my career. When I look for people just out of school, the first thing I look at is, do they have any actual real world experience? Because part of that is, are you passionate enough to force doing that type of work as part of making money, prior to getting a job? Or, and also, do you code on the side, right? What have you done as pet projects and hobbies? And, are you passionate about technology, or was this just something you did because your parents asked you to, or you thought it would make money or whatever, right? It does make a difference when you're comparing, 3 or 4 or 5, to 60 different people, and you see one person has, direct experience at work, and other folks have just taken courses. It does make a difference when there's limited positions, right? And I can only choose 10 out of the 60, right? That's what I look for, is who are the people that showed aptitude and passion for technology, while they were in school, because it's just something that they enjoy doing. It wasn't, they were just taking classes and we're going to wait until they got into industry to actually get hands-on experience. So that would be my first really big advice to all of you guys right now, especially being home at COVID. I think I saw a question pop up about, what do you suggest we do? Well, I said, one of the greatest things about coding is the part, you know, some very basic stuff, you know, and so yeah, it's an amazing thing that you could, you know, spend, all you need is your time and effort and energy to really become good at something, and you don't need to wait for industry to help. It certainly helps to learn how to work in a team environment. But anyway, these are things you could be doing right now, and there's a lot of free resources out there that can help you. So, in addition to what you can take from classes and resources that your professors will provide to you as well. So, definitely recommend doing as much as you can to get hard skills where you can show me that you have not just classroom experience, but you've done stuff, even if you're not hired as an intern, but you've done your own coding and you have GitHub projects and links where you say, hey, I may not have had a job, but I wrote this program that does this. You know, there's a lot of opportunity out there right now during COVID where remote work is a thing, and the world was not prepared for this. There were companies that were good for fit, like Zoom and other things like that, but there's so much opportunity out there right now, and we're seeing that happen in industry where telework, telemedicine, anything is a big deal, and you can find ways to build on that without having anyone tell you to do it, right? And who knows, maybe you'll be the next big thing or the next Zoom company, and all it has to start was you and your and a laptop in the basement, or whatever. So and then after about 8 years in Accenture, I jumped into industry. I was at JP Morgan for about 8 years, doing similar work, but really managing a requirements team. So I kind of managed all like the business systems analysts. We took the business requirements, turned them into system requirements for a large custom credit card implementation system where we manage credit cards for Fortune 500 companies. And then about 2 years ago, through my network, I got the opportunity to join Walgreens as a director for an IT program where we're rebuilding the software for the pharmacy, as I mentioned earlier. So anyway, not to take up too much more time, but that's pretty much my career progression to date.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. Jeff, I feel inspired. I will say. I think I want to start learning some code and just seeing how I can get it. Very inspirational. And I think part of what I want to highlight with all of the panelists, it sounded like soft skills was something I heard pretty consistently, and how you've been able to utilize soft skills to your benefit. And you talked a little bit about just mentioning how I think it was one of the panelists earlier, you talked just a little bit about how some of those soft skills have been able to allow you to transition to different areas of the technology industry. Really quickly, can you tell us about, just from your experience, what are 2 soft skills right now as students are going into the workforce? What are 2 soft skills that you have found to be beneficial or helpful to you in your experience?
I'll start probably. Communication, if you can say that that's a soft skill, like it's a super useful skill. Like it may not be like one of the most important ones as you're beginning to grow, but then as you're progressing, talking to other people, departments, clients, communication is one of the like really big ones. You want to get it really good because it's also how you build relationships with your team. So communication, I would say number 1. And number 2, soft skill, documentation. Kind of documenting, knowing how to write, being concise, knowing to what level of detail to go. I would say this is pretty important for also communicating effectively and efficiently. So documentation, I know even from on technology side, some of the engineers, developers don't really like that. Finding a beautiful balance, it can be like one of your distinguishing talents to be really good at that.
That's great.
I would say definitely communication, just like Andre said. Just can't hit that home enough. Eric mentioned earlier that communicating concepts either to your coworkers or your customers or whomever, just being able to communicate effectively and kind of just decomplicate things. Get down to the root concept of something, and not with all the IT mumbo jumbo that we all like to throw around so much. And second would be teamwork. When you work either in a small corporation or a large corporation, there's always going to be people that don't work well with others or that try to keep their secrets to themselves. It's really not a singular race to the top. If everyone on the team performs well, then the whole company will progress and everyone will benefit from it. Just one person hoarding the information and trying to get promoted themselves.
That's excellent.
Yeah. I can add just a little bit to that too. I mean, not to keep piling on to the same topic, but I think it's so important that it's worth hammering home again. Like, so, communication, again, this is changing because people, what I've seen over time is there's a lot of functions and roles within engineering that are merging where, they were separate dedicated roles, like you code and you test and you do requirements. And there's a lot more blending now where, with agile methodologies and other types of methodologies, where there's a lot more expectations of new graduates and new recruits to be able to have all of those skills merged into one body, one being, right? And of course, without, the old, adage that, you don't want to, we try and separate engineers from the business, right? Because if we don't want them to talk to them because they're just going to confuse them. Well, that's no longer the case. Now you need to be able to talk to your business users, your product people who are going to be telling you what it is they need. And you need to be able to ask clarifying questions, and you need to be able to think critically. And you also need to be able to push back and say, you know what, that doesn't make sense because have you thought about this? And you know what I mean? It's more of a dialogue and a collaboration than thou shalt tell me what to do. And I'm just a coder that's, can do what you tell me to do, but I don't think for myself. I don't have a brain for myself. Well, that's no longer the case. Now we all have perspectives that can be valuable and add value. And I think that that's expected from the students that are coming out of school is, you need to be able to, bring technical skills, but also be able to communicate effectively and be able to collaborate and converse. And your team projects are similar to how you need to be able to work in an environment, because in, an agile environment, you're working on a scrum team and day to day. And so you're sitting next to these people, you've got 7, 8, 9, 10, depending on where you work, people on this team. And you got to work with them day to day to get your work done. And you have stand-ups every day. You're literally working as a team almost all day, every day. And then in addition, you're working with your stakeholders who are telling you what they want. And so, before it used to be, well, like you needed a mediary between the two. And now those walls are being broken down, but it's only been possible because of those soft skills. Right. And so communication is key. Ability to work well with a team is key. And also, it's not really just ability. Like, you should like it, right? If you should like working in a team setting, because really the days of an individual working in a silo are becoming less and less frequent, at least when you're building software. So, communication, working well in a team, and also thinking of the team as either, you succeed as a team or you fail as a team. There's no, I did my work and so I'm done, but if you didn't do yours, then at least I did mine, right? Because at the end of the day, if the team doesn't deliver what you committed to, then nobody wins, right? And so again, it's a bit of a shift in mindset, but that's the type of environment where, those soft skills and, around communication, around just knowing how to be a good team player, those really count.
Jameson, if I
Excellent.
can jump in for
Sure.
a second.
Yeah.
I know we have about 14 minutes left, and we did get a couple of questions in from students, and some of which I think got answered throughout the course of the convo. But I did want to ask, this is from Matthew Lonergan. He asked a question, and I think he's referring to, how everyone's working remotely right now. How is everyone able to maintain that team dynamic with their respective teams?
From our standpoint, we try to have, at least there's a group of us that start a little bit earlier. We have what's called our coffee talk. So we do a video conference, just kind of banter a little bit, talk about the day, kind of get the day started. Just like we used to when we were in the office, we'd sit around, either getting their coffee, just kind of interact, like outside non-work stuff. Then after about 20 minutes or so, we start with the work stuff. We try to do weekly team meetings, at least once a week, if not more. In all, with the recommendation that everyone be on a video so you can see people that are staring at a computer screen and not having that interaction has been, it's been helpful when we're trying to do it more often, even though, you're busy trying to answer calls and resolve people's issues. We realize as a company, everyone needs that break, just instead of doing the daily grind, that's kind of what we're looking to do. And, you know, productivity wise, it like in our situation, because a lot of our business is based on, you know, tickets or phone calls, it really hasn't adjusted any of my engineers' productivity. Everyone's been very productive, getting all their time in, you know, following up, you know, with the end user, even with the call volume. But, you know, like you're saying earlier, the reason why the team dynamic is being in the office previously had a huge, you know, makes it a lot easier, but it also helped build when this did happen, that we're still interacting with each other to keep growing that team concept, even though we're not physically next to each other.
I'll probably jump in and add that our team also, because we're like an agency type, so usually in my discipline, we have 3 of us on the team. Usually we have like different projects happening, but we do daily sync ups, like mini Scrum stand-ups. We talk about projects we talked about yesterday, we're up to today, some challenges. We've been doing that before the COVID hit and like right now, so that kind of keeps us really be like on the top. And part of the COVID, like I guess the good side actually is that our productivity kind of jumped up a little bit because now we don't have to spend as much time commuting. And for some of us, it was like an hour and a half, like one way, as just I think Jeff mentioned also, right? So that leaves you kind of more, if you manage that work-life balance well, if you do end up like at 5 or 6 p.m., then you have more time to work on your other like activities. So that kind of gives you more energy for your key. I know maybe just a short-term boost, but that's what we're seeing for now.
Yeah, I'm seeing. So my answer is that it's challenging. I think that that's one thing that we could do a better job on. I don't have any good answers for how to do that right now. Besides, you know, I think frankly, even though I'm guilty of not using video as much as I should, video really does help connections and keeping that contact. Just seeing somebody on a video screen, so, you know, especially if you're working across time zones and geographies. Like, you know, I have a multinational team, and some of these folks I've never met before, you know, and so it really does help to, or never met in person, I should say. But so it really helps to do video, and that's one way that the team, you know, probably should be doing more, but isn't. The other thing is, you know, I would say not much has changed around touch points. And so it's difficult to maintain there's no substitute for being in the office from that perspective. I think that you can get close, but, you know, and there's, you know, hopefully other folks have best practices that maybe I can steal. But right now I would say that's a very challenging thing that we haven't solved very well yet.
I can quickly jump on that. Some of the stuff that we do as a replacement for some of the social is those like coffee buddy programs, where you have like a random program that pairs up people and you go for little like coffee chats, even over Slack. You do some video calls, that we find that also helps keep the social up.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Question from the panelist, Lauren.
Yeah. We actually have, go ahead, Miles, you're going to go ahead.
Yeah, I just have one question. Since this COVID thing, a lot of the job market has been impacted differently for students who are graduating and students who are currently applying for job positions. What do you see in terms of like trends in information management or in terms of other IT positions, whether companies are going on a hiring surge or whether companies are slowing down their hiring, or it's the same? So kind of like just a little bit talk about the job market and what you see for the recent graduates and people who are currently graduating.
From our standpoint, we're still looking to grow, and we're still out there searching for business, not necessarily knowing that for instance, a couple of potential customers, they're like, you know, I'm really interested, but right now I'm not going to be ready to make a change. But it goes, when this is all done or we're settled in, you know, then, you know, let's talk again. You know, our drive is, especially from the owners, is, you know, we understand this situation's happening, but we're not going to stop trying to grow our business and try to continue to improve as a company, whether it's like it's given us this time, which we would normally have to push the engineers to try to get certifications, where they would have a little bit more downtime, not as much, but because we have an opportunity now for when this is over to continue to change directions or do whatever we need to do to kind of push forward. So like in our industry, which is a little different, we're looking to grow. So we're looking to hire people because where we're at, we're relatively small. It's not like a big company where they have, like a huge company where they have different choices to make. You know, they're like, do I need 6 network engineers or whatever it is? I could see some of that being moved to someone like a managed service provider. So like you were saying earlier, that not having these siloed jobs anymore, like our type of business models, we can't have people that are siloed. They need to have like a good foundation of knowing different things. They're not needing to be an expert at everything, but knowing a little bit of that, then work with their knowledge as a team, and you kind of build a team with different strengths of everyone else. And that's kind of how we've been able to grow, fortunately.
Yeah, my speculation would be healthcare, even though it seems like there's gonna be a lot of demand, either maybe a little bit of challenging to get into the field, starting an experience. Probably a lot of more seasoned folks will be making transitions, but the other two, they have cloud solution engineering. So Azure, AWS, things going from on-prem to the cloud. There would likely be quite a bit of a boost there. And the third one, I guess, e-commerce, selling stuff online. And not only selling stuff online, but think about the whole pipeline. You need to buy stuff, you need to deliver stuff. There's all of those different aspects, like shipping. All of those will definitely be like, there will be higher demand, and automation would definitely be like, I can see quite a bit of investment there.
All right, we have, Jeff, you were gonna go ahead and jump in there.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say that there's, still demand. I would say that there is a bit of some things have been frozen that were open while people wait to see how it shakes out. I would say that this is an unfortunate time for new graduates because I think that there's some concern over, how do you hire and train effectively somebody that's just out of school, which again, I'll go back to my point about how important it is to have some hard skills, maybe try to compete, especially in maybe a post-COVID world where if you will be working more remotely, how do you show that you can be responsible, accountable, and be productive and add value? That's, potentially some of the story you want to be able to tell a potential employer, right? But I do think that folks have a little bit more of a challenge than normal because until we go back to a normal offense environment, a lot of the trust was around get them in here and we'll train them and we'll mold them how we want them. Where if that's not as much of an option, I think that companies are rethinking their recruiting strategies a little bit based on that. And so right now, I wouldn't say it's been, it's a slowdown. It's more just frozen while companies figure out how do they react to this.
That is great. We have one more quick question. We'll get ready to close up here. We'll make sure everyone has the information to contact the panelists via LinkedIn, and we'll also be sharing this afterwards. Really quick, panelists, if you can just give us what's one piece of advice that you would give to new grads, class of 2020, getting ready to graduate. What's one piece of advice that you would give to them?
I'll probably just start by just think critically. Plan for yourself, look at your weaknesses and strengths, and just have a little roadmap for yourself. For your skill set, for your type of character, just have a plan down. Even if you won't want to be able to execute, just have the plan down. That'd be my advice.
Going off that as well, I would say definitely figure out what kind of job you want to land in or what kind of specific path in IT you want to go down, because there's so many different types of paths you can follow in IT, whether it's programming or server administration, web development, whatever it may be. Find that niche thing that you want, and then tailor yourself to be the perfect candidate for it. So look up those job requirements in LinkedIn or Indeed or wherever you're looking for employers. And even if you're not a senior yet, begin to get those certifications or try to take those classes that will make you the perfect candidate to land that job when you graduate.
That's great. That's great.
Only thing that I would have is also try to figure out if, do you want to work in a big company or a small company? The reason I'm mentioning that is because usually in a smaller company, you'll be exposed to more, whether it's on the networking side, firewall side, programming side. You'll have more freedom to kind of cross-train and cross-learn than from being in a large corporation where you may be a little bit more siloed. You could only do so many things. It's really about what you want to do. I mean, if you're one of those people that will want to be siloed, this is all I want to do, that's great. But as you're looking at that, just ask yourself, do I want to, just stay focused on one thing, or do I want to, get exposed to networking or firewalls or routers, or, I want to do programming? Because that will, at least if I had known that, I was fortunate when I started younger that I was with a small company. I think if I started with a big company, at least in my perspective, I wouldn't have been as happy.
Mm.
Yeah, that's a great point. My entire career, I've been with large companies, large business corporations. I think it is, and that's why I would recommend internships can help give you perspective, right? So, if you can, try to get an internship. Frankly, Walgreens does summer internships every year, and they take 40 to 50 students across the country for their programs. And, I know DePaul is a feeder program, especially since Walgreens is headquartered in Deerfield, and we just opened an office at the old post office, which is right in downtown in the Loop. And so, great way to get exposure to say, hey, is this something I'd want to do for the next 20, 30 years? And not that you have to, stick with it, but what's the team environment? Like, what's the dynamic? Getting exposure will really help you tell, do I want to, do this is large corporation and what comes with it? When, trust me, there's plenty of things that come with it, both positive and negative, compared to working a small or medium-sized business. And even try to do an internship at a small or medium-sized business, and get that exposure so you can, really see what works best for you. The other thing I would say is, of course, consulting, based on my own career path, that gets you exposure to lots of different functions and roles as well as clients, right? The reason I was able to join JP Morgan is because I was there as a contractor, and they made me an offer I couldn't refuse, and so, those are the types of things that, you can get exposure not only to industries, clients, and cultures and how they operate, lots of big businesses, but also roles and what types of roles are best suited for you. What are you interested in? What do you like to do? So internships, working in consulting, another good way to get exposure. And then, I would say just overall, it's about, so we're doing a lot of interviewing through video these days, right? So there's something called HireVue, there's something else. And frankly, I was a lot more impressed with last year's summer interns and how they interviewed through a video online versus, my experience when I was in their shoes where, they came on campus, or I went to, a career fair or whatever it was, being able to, interview well on video is going to be important, and just be confident and comfortable and being authentic, right? And I think someone said bring integrity, right? But being integrity is just being yourself, right? That's really what it looks like. And so, don't try and be what you think somebody wants you to be. Just, be yourself, and that's what you want people to hire you based on that, right? Versus what they, think they're getting from you, and then ends up being like, not what you want and not what they want, right? And I've seen that happen before, and it doesn't work out for anybody. So, and really the biggest advice I can give is, get skills, look for internships, and then, be aggressive with your career. And by aggressive, I mean, there was a turning point in my career, when I was a student, where I was doing a school project with a bunch of people, and one guy was supposedly this amazing engineer, and we kind of stepped back and let him do everything, and we ended up getting like a C on the project, and I was pissed off. I was like, what the hell? This guy was supposed to get us all an A, and we're supposed to kick back and put our shoes up, and I didn't pay that much attention and let him do it, and that was a real turning point for me, where I said, I've got to own my own career, I've got to own my own grades, And from then on, whenever I was in a group setting, I stepped up and I took the leadership positions because I didn't want anybody else to be accountable for my results. And I think that that was a real turning point in my early on for me to say, hey, if I want something to happen, I've got to be responsible and accountable for it. And then also learn how to work well with others. But really it was about, stepping up, taking those leadership positions, showing that you have initiative, and then being able to communicate it effectively, right? Tell your story about why somebody should hire you. Why are you valuable? What are your skills? What are your functional, tangible, soft skills and hard skills, which gets you the complete package, and why you'd be a great asset to that company, right? And so a lot of it is really storytelling also, but you got to have some things to back it up too. It can't just be all fluff.
That's great, great. Thank you all to our panelists. We are at time. I want to thank everyone really quickly. Andre put in there, network. You can definitely do that during this time. A lot of virtual events going on. Just to be respectful of everyone's time, we thank you for joining us today. Again, we will be following up with a survey from today's event, as well as information on how you can reach out to any of the panelists. And I know Ryan at Ryan's hiring for a couple positions. We just recently posted on Handshake. So I'll make sure that those get sent to you as well if anyone's interested in applying for those. And if there's no other questions, we're gonna wrap up at this point. The questions that did not get answered through the chat, I'll make sure that we get back to you via email and get you an answer for those. Thanks everybody for attending. I really appreciate it. And we're going to end now. So thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. Have a great night.
Thanks everybody. Cheers.
Thank you.